This is Talking Drupal, a weekly chat about web design and development from a group of guys with one thing in common. We love Drupal. This is episode 278, Insider Edition, Quarter 1 Content Planning. Wow. Bum, 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 bum. Welcome to Talking Drupal. This is episode 278. And today we thought we'd share one of our quarterly content meetings with you. So we're going to talk about things we're going to talk about, and we're going to talk about it.
I'm just chuckling because you say that we're going to share one of our quarterly meetings when this is as if we've had quarterly meetings before. We've certainly had planning shows. We've had planning meetings and get-togethers over the years, but we've never done them quarterly.
So we should rename this episode 278, To Be Continued. It's like the ultimate to be continued episode.
Yeah, like our migration one. Ooh. So this year we're going to have quarterly content planning meetings. So this is our first meeting, and it was actually on a day we were going to record the show. So we figured we'd share this information with you. And I'm Stephen Cross, by the way. And joining me, as usual, is John Picozzi. John, what is new with you in this early month of 2021?
I got a new alarm system. Longtime ADT customer, and recently realized that they are astronomical in their yearly monitoring fee. So switched away from them to another solution that is much cheaper and more with the times as far as being Wi-Fi enabled and controlled from my phone and whatnot. So
good.
I'm pretty happy with it, and I think I can arm it from my Alexa. So look at that. We've come into the 21st century.
That's awesome. Nick, what's new with you?
Looking forward to a new year. I've been doing a little bit of AWS work, playing around a little bit with CloudFormation, which is kind of fun. CloudFormation kind of allows you to set up a lot of deployment automations. So we're able to pull together a bunch of different services and have it, some of it's typical CI, CD stuff, building projects when commits are made, but with CloudFormation, you can pull in a lot of other AWS services. So you can pull in, sensitive information from the secrets manager. You can pull in your testing suite, and you can deploy stuff to a Lambda if you need to, or serverless, and set up your API gateway. So I've been doing a little bit of that work this week for a client, and enjoying getting back into kind of the, I guess you'd say, DevOps end of AWS again.
Is that to host a Drupal site or something different?
No, something different.
Okay.
Non-Drupal.
Yeah, I'd be interested in learning more about that from hosting a Drupal site on your own. Anyway, for me, this week, it's just something interesting happened today. I was doing a code build, and part of our code build process is it always runs a composer compatibility check and security check on all of our modules and stuff, our code base, and something was flagged as having a vulnerability. And I knew that last week I had run that process and it ran fine. So it's something new. But Drupal hasn't flagged it yet. So I reached out to these guys, you two guys, said, have you guys heard of this? And I ended up posting a question message out on the Drupal Slack. Is it called Security Questions Channel? And then it got my hand slapped pretty quickly for actually identifying a vulnerability in a public forum. It's an issue that's already been resolved. The new version is out there. And I guess I wasn't quite aware that was a no-no. So lesson learned today. So I'm expecting there would be a Drupal update soon with this problem, right? Because there was one similar like this in the past and it came out.
Did you open the security issue? Yeah,
so I ended up reading through, doing the proper thing, reading through the documentation on Drupal.org, and it recommended there using a link that sends basically a private issue to the issue queue, which is what I did, and I haven't gotten a response. You know, it's weird. I didn't even get a response that it was added, although I know it was added.
You need to log in and check because the notification system from there is a bit wonky sometimes.
Yeah. So I need to go back and check today, but yeah, so that was the first time that's happened to me when I found something before Drupal told me it was there.
Just out of curiosity, when you got your hand slapped, did you get information on the proper procedure, or was it just like you shouldn't be doing this?
Yeah. I say hand slapped in a way that it sounded like it was rude, but it wasn't. It was someone just said, "Hey," and it wasn't even someone who is a security person per se. It was someone that was on the channel said, "Hey, you're not supposed to do this, and this is the reason why." And it made perfect sense to me. I wasn't upset by it. I was a little surprised by it because I was a little hesitant to push it in at first. So I looked up through the thread, and a week before someone had done exactly the same thing with a different dependency. And no one commented that it was a bad idea to do it. And that's why I went ahead and did it.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that's different here for me, like I understand the policy of not discussing open or suspected security issues because obviously you don't want to expose something. But when it's a dependency that exists, it's not like you're exposing something that's not known. I mean, people that are really looking to compromise Drupal, they have, they're more likely running Composer processes themselves and all these big projects, not really monitoring security questions. Channel. Well, I'm sure they're also monitoring that channel, but it's like, this isn't something that you discover. This is something another project discovered that we depend on. So I think it would make sense. I'm curious about exploring that a little bit further because I feel like this is something that would make sense to handle differently because it's also not something that core needs to update. It could just be a PSA bulletin that says, "Hey, this updated. Update your Composer."
That's the interesting thing to me too, is because I'm like, it doesn't actually require a new version of Drupal. All it requires is an update.
Yeah, it's already public. It's not like it's something that you discovered that wasn't public. Like it's public information already, so it should be perfectly fine to discuss.
Right. Although it was relatively fresh, the issue was only fixed 22 hours before I discovered that it was there. So it is kind of a new thing.
But if you look at the thread too, somebody already replied that they were about to ask the same question.
Oh, so, I didn't see that. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So
the other reason I ended up putting the question in there is because like 30 minutes before that, someone had asked in that channel, "Is there going to be a security update tomorrow?" And someone replied, "No, there isn't." So I was thinking, maybe they don't know about this.
No, they actually didn't say no, there isn't. They said we don't tell you unless it generates a PSA the week before.
Oh, okay.
So they don't comment on whether or not. So the thing is, they wouldn't have answered your question anyway because they don't comment on whether or not there's going to be a security
So why is the
release.
Slack channel there? Just curious.
Yeah,
you can ask questions like, "Hey, should my password be password?" Is that
I the way I've seen it used mostly, and the reason why I'm in it is if a security update drops and it breaks things for a lot of people, this is where you'll see how to resolve those issues.
Okay, that's good. It's good to know.
So funny story.
Or one other thing that I've seen happen here is if somebody. If there's like mitigating circumstances for something, you can clarify if your situation is mitigated by following those steps, like those kinds of things.
Yeah.
If you're a longtime listener, you'll enjoy this interlude here. Funny that before we started the show, Stephen was like, "Hey, let's keep our updates to a sentence because we have a time constraint." And now we've been talking about security updates for the last 5 minutes. But that's how the podcasting world goes.
Okay, so let's move on. I agree. So we're just going to talk about what's coming up in the next, and we haven't talked about this yet as a team on our side. So what we're looking at is we're looking at the next quarter. So it would be January, February, March. We're recording this now on January 19th. So we only have 2 more shows left this month. So we're looking at like 10 shows. And what we have is a list of categories of content, and we're going to go through these here and come up with some guidelines. Well, this is the first time we're trying something like this. We'll see how it works. Some guidelines of topics that we'd like to touch, and then how many times we'd like to touch them in a quarter. So, for example, one on here is a topic on front-end design, let's say. Actually, I don't see that on here. Yeah, front-end
Fourth bullet point down.
I see it. Yep, front-end design. Like how many times should we try to target a show during a quarter for that particular topic? So let's go through these. I don't know if you guys got a chance to edit this list at all. Have you?
Yeah,
Okay.
I took a scan and I have some thoughts.
All right. So I'll just run down the list and then we can talk. And I've also identified how often in the quarter we'd like to hit it. And first one I have is Drupal news. We're not really a news show. We do like to hit some topics that sort of jump out as newsworthy, and we'll talk about them. So I just leave that in as weekly, and it's not really a show. It's more of a segment of our show, yeah, that we kind of do like one out of every 3 shows.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. It's one of those things where we just do it whenever there's something relevant, and that's kind of what we do. When there's a relevant story, we talk a bit about it, and depending on how interesting it is, we talk about it longer or shorter. But I think that makes sense. We don't want to force Drupal news every week.
Yep.
And we don't, we also don't want to never talk about it either.
Related to that kind of is one of our goals this year as a show is to release the same day we record. So this is going to be the first time we get an opportunity to do that. So we'll see how that works. And those news items might be more relevant for us and more, if we can stay on that pattern.
More timely.
Yeah, they'd be more timely to get them out. If something came out today or the day before, someone would hear about it on the show.
For example, Steven's security thing, you can now go back in Slack and review that because you know when it happened.
Yeah, exactly. You can go back and see the message that was deleted. All right. So the second one on the list is Drupal, and these are in no particular order, by the way. The next one is Drupal Association.
Yeah. So
we talked about.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, we talked about this a bit. We talked about like a quarterly kind of update from the association. And again, I think it's a good avenue for the association to get some messages out. And I think, kind of what we talked about, kind of like not a set or fixed, person kind of replying and kind of tailoring that. I think that makes sense. So, because I think that provides a lot of value, and more than quarterly, I think would be too much.
And it doesn't have to be an entire show dedicated to it. It could be, the idea would be they attend a show, give an update maybe for 10 to 15 minutes, and then they just participate in the rest of the show like a guest host maybe would be. I think that's the way we might approach that.
Right.
All right. The next topic here is specific modules. So picking out, I always like these shows. I always learn stuff on them. I have that down as monthly. I don't know if that's too frequent or.
Yeah, I feel like some of the topics that we have marked as monthly, and I'll bring them as we go, do make sense as monthly topics. I feel like some of them are more of like a floating, like we wouldn't necessarily have it once a quarter or once a month, but we have like a slot that this could fit in that's once a month, if that makes sense. And I feel like this is one of those things. Like I think we'd have a once a month slot that we put stuff in, and that could be specific modules or maybe the next one, right? Where it's like, I don't think we're going to want to talk about a specific module every month. But I don't know that we'd want to necessarily restrict it to once a quarter either, or twice a year or something like that.
I don't know. I got to feel like at least once a month we should be talking about some module, whether it's like a hot module that's being used quite a bit, or a module that's been updated. I think I don't know. I think having one of those shows once a month makes a lot of sense.
Fair enough.
I think it's also the reason why I like it monthly is it keeps us focused on Drupal.
Yeah.
Which which for a Drupal podcast, sometimes I feel like we're not talking about it enough.
I wonder if with that, like module updates, I wonder if we change that to module and core updates, right? So like getting somebody on to talk about new features that are coming out in core, or something to that effect could be interesting as well.
Yeah,
Right.
I mean, if we included like initiatives too, I think that could be interesting. Like, would you guys consider the Claro show that we did
Yes.
to be in this vein?
Yeah, that would
absolutely
fall under this category. Yeah.
Yeah, I could see that being monthly then. Definitely.
Okay, cool. All right, the next one. I've not done any math on these to figure out if it actually fits. This formula fits into 12 shows. I'm going to rely on Nick to do that, by the way. All right.
It doesn't, which is one of the reasons why I was suggesting like a
Right.
one that kind of floats a bit,
Yeah.
like 1 week that floats a bit.
All right. So the next one is front end. Front end. So this would be not just design, but maybe front end tools, front end design, things that are front end centric stuff. It's not where our skills are necessarily, the three of us, but it's a good show, like to bring more of that, or keep it fresh, because we all deal with it all the time. So I think this too should be another monthly thing.
Yeah.
I mean,
bi-monthly, every 2 months.
Yeah, I feel like this would be in the rotating week. So I feel like if we're looking at monthly things, we would generally have, maybe we have 4 topics that we do monthly, and then the 5 week months, that extra month is something, or maybe we do 3 things a month, and the 4th and 5th week are like a pool of 3 or 4 other things that kind of rotate. Because I mean, front end design, that's something that we talked about a bit too. We no longer have a front end person on the show, so we have. Go ahead.
That's later in the agenda.
I was just going to say, it's also a huge topic, right? And there are a lot of other podcasts that talk specifically about front end design. I mean, obviously we would bring it back to Drupal, but I don't know. It just feels like, I don't know. It feels like something that we could talk about every 2 months, and they're like, yeah, that'd be fine.
Yeah, I feel like this is one that we could do more frequently than quarterly if we had topics, but I wouldn't want to say like we have to do it every month.
None of these are have to. These are just sort of targets to create, to create a variance in the show. The next one looks like someone just added that. I don't remember that being there. It says business. Yeah,
so we've done a couple of shows that were kind of business oriented. Like we did the How to Be a Freelancer recently, which I think was pretty good, and we did the RFP. The only John and I solo show, duo show, was on the RFPs.
By the way, our most downloaded episode ever.
Really?
No.
Wow.
I was going to say, I'd be very surprised.
I was going to say, well,
I think this is definitely a quarterly or rotate, in the rotation block, not a.
Gotcha.
I mean, we can do it biannually if it's like 3 hours long every time we do it.
Okay. This is an interesting one. This next one, backend coding.
Yeah, I struggle with that a little bit, but
I want to say something about it first, though, right? Since we've never really done a whole lot of backend stuff in the show,
which is funny because that's what we do.
That's what we do, right? That's what we spend a majority of our time doing, right?
But it's the medium, I think.
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't necessarily agree with that.
I do. I think it's super hard to teach to express a backend coding principle, or to show somebody something with backend code through just audio. And granted, we're on YouTube, so there could be some video component, but I think without video, it's difficult.
So here's why I disagree with that. And the reason why this is on the list is because in the team that I work with, we started a book club again, and we're going through tech books. And we're right now going through Drupal 9 module development book. And we're not doing videos. You are reading content, but we're talking about on a weekly basis for an hour, talking about coding concepts. And it's working.
but the visual component there is the book. Everybody has the book. So for our show, we'd have to ship all of our listeners a book for them to be able to follow along.
True.
I feel like this is like an experimental topic. I feel like it's something we need to try.
Yep.
And if it's not successful, I mean, these are quarterly meetings now. We can cut it out of the next cycle. But it's interesting because, like we pointed out, this is John, you do a little more on the business end, but Steve and I, the core of our work week is, back-end coding, and we talk about it so infrequently.
So if you're listening right now and you have an idea of how we can better do back-end coding shows, you feel free to jump into that Drupal channel and let us know.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good segue. John at least mentioned that, one of the reasons we decided to record this and share it with everyone is to inspire you to reach out to us and say, hey, how about this topic or this idea? So it's always great to be able to deliver shows that people ask for. And we've been doing that the last few months. I would say probably the last 5 or 6 episodes we've done, other than maybe the 2020 sort of roundup, those are shows that listeners have asked us to do.
Absolutely. Speaking of back-end coding being something that we haven't done a whole lot of shows on, I realized that we're missing a category of, I think, the majority of the shows that we do. Yeah. And that's like, we do a lot of like architectural shows where we talk about, here's this particular class of problem, and here's how you approach solutions, or here's what you should look out for when trying to solve it. Here's the questions to ask. I definitely feel like that's still our core. We're talking about different, things that come to mind are like the single sign-on show, meta tags, the time that we planned. I think
that concept, Nick, kind of falls into the modules.
Yeah.
Okay.
When we focus on modules,
right?
when we focus, it's almost like we do that with everything. Like whenever we talk about topics, we do approach it as, hey, what's the best approach? When you wrote that in this list here, I thought you were going more around like content architecture and things like that is sort of where I thought you were heading.
I think it kind of, this falls in this falls in that too. I was thinking more like single sign-on, where there's not like a specific module that handles that. Like depending on what problem you're solving, you might use a different mix. And so that's kind of what I was thinking of.
Yeah. I mean, I would, instead of maybe calling it architectural principles, I would call it like problem solving, like bring you problem. We're going to try to solve it. Right. So like doing something where like common problems, we're talking about solutions, right? Solutions architecting, I guess you could call it.
So if we actually move that up to with the group that said modules, initiatives, and problem solving, and that stayed monthly, that kind of all now works a little bit better, right?
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, it's a bigger bucket to try to fill.
Right. And they're all the same sort of things, right? They're more, they kind of
often problems are solved with modules.
Right, true, right. Yeah.
Yeah. So the next one is kind of interesting to me, and I'm kind of curious about it. So we have non-Drupal specific web topics. And my question, I guess, is, does this mean things like, and I assume it's yes, things like Gatsby, React, but does it also mean things like there's some things that we haven't talked about in forever, things like the picture element, right? And how best to use that. With that,
yeah, I think that all falls into HTML things,
Pattern Lab. Definitely. I think non-Drupal. I mean, even technology stacks, right? Like Kubernetes could be a show. Obviously we've had Jeff Geerling on talking about different topics in that area. I think that all falls under kind of the non-tech. Like, yes, you could apply it to Drupal, but you could also apply it to like a whole bunch of other stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough. I think monthly is fine for that too.
Yeah. Okay, we got the next one here is developer's life. So these are more soft topics. I think I would consider them like mental health, working from home, traveling, business.
Yeah.
Like the life of a developer, all kinds of stuff. We have touched on those. We have touched on those topics before.
Yep.
And we should continue to. We have this marked down as quarterly.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Which kind of feels right to me.
Looking at this again, I feel like the modules, core initiatives, problem solving, maybe that's something we do twice a month. And the other monthly ones kind of fit in, and the quarterly ones fit in when necessary. Because I would think that maybe, if we're looking at this, like maybe just like abstractly, first week of the month we do a module core initiative. Second week of the month we do, maybe the business quarterly one. Third week of the month and then the second month we would do maybe one of the developer life ones, things like that. So maybe like the second week of the month is the quarterly, because we have a couple of different quarterly ones. So we're doing a quarterly show per month, but it's just a different topic. So maybe month one is the Drupal Association one, month two is, developer life, and month three is business, right? And then other than that, we have, I don't know, I just changed in there. Other than that, we have, the module problem solving, then the quarterly module problem solving, and then the fourth week is, the front end design or backend coding, right? And then when we have the fifth week of the month, maybe it's when we have week 5. Although it really depends on where it falls. If it doesn't fall on a Tuesday or Thursday, we're not going to have 5 weeks in the month. Maybe then it's, another problem solving show. Or an experimental show or something. I don't know. I'm just thinking through how practically it fits.
You're solutioning before we have all the information.
So I think like our step will be after this meeting today. Will be just putting it in a calendar and try to put these categories in and see how things. And this is not like we have to, next week we have to have this kind of topic and we don't have it. This isn't that at all.
What do you mean? People are going to listen to this and then they're going to get enraged when they don't hear the specific topic.
All right. So
this episode's like the TV guide of the podcast.
Hey, JJ. John's doing some parenting right now. So the next pass on this list I'd like to do is do a brain dump on potential topics under each of these categories, starting with with the modules.
That was Wesley, not JJ.
Oh, was it? Okay. I haven't seen.
I was say he looks a little short for.
Yeah.
If that was
funny
JJ.
he looks huge. He's like a big kid now, but JJ's even bigger, which is.
I mean, I haven't seen your kids in probably a year.
Yeah.
Right.
It's true.
We used to see each other a lot during the summer times, right?
Yep.
Right.
Food truck Fridays.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so let's take a look now. So let's go through. Let's brain dump on the modules.
So module core. I'm thinking. Commerce I think is a good one to update on. A couple times, maybe once a year, maybe twice a year. Would you consider? I know we just did one, so I'm not suggesting for this quarter, but would you consider translation to be a topic for this?
Yeah.
Like we did a couple
absolutely. Ago? Yeah. And by the way, the things we're putting in here aren't just for this quarter. Let's just dump stuff in. And so we just at least have the list.
What are the current Drupal initiatives? Just, the only one I'm aware of is the front end.
Front end initiative and Drupal. I think there's a Drupal 10 something, JS, front end JS framework, I think.
I'll look that up and
it might be good to have a check-in on media too, right?
That's interesting. I'm looking at the previous. Did you find the page about strategic initiatives?
Yep. Automatic updates, decoupled menus, Drupal 10 readiness.
Yeah.
easy out of the box. Decoupled menus would be nice. Oh my goodness, menus.
Well,
in
that's I
Drupal.
mean that's part of finding a JS framework. I think that's how they're kind of lumping those two things together. Maybe I could be wrong about
And
that.
community initiatives is currently composer support and core, config management 2.0, accessibility, documentation, and Drupal 8 user experience. So let me just put links to these pages. I think that'll make more sense.
Just dump the high level link in, and then I'll pull the initiatives out later as separate items. Yep. Those are all interesting things to talk about. Listeners, I mean, specific modules that you're interested in, let us know. We just did a great one on the recurring event
stuff. Yeah, I would love to do an update on that at some point.
Yep. We could also go back and look at modules that we've discussed in the past and see if there's any significant changes to any of them too.
All the old modules are new again.
Yeah, exactly.
What about Drupal 9, right? Anything specific there that we have not talked about?
I have one client using Drupal 9 and I haven't installed it. Like we're working on some stuff they've updated, but I've not gone through the Drupal 9 update process for any of my clients yet. I mean, there's just so maybe update readiness or something, because web form, although web form now is available in both. So I think a lot of my clients are going to be ready.
Web form to the list. Web form
is always go up.
Jacob's always doing fun things.
I mean, we usually get a yearly update from him, right?
Yep.
Something like that.
Did you put media? Oh, you did. Okay.
I struggle with.
I feel like rules eventually can be added here. I did see, isn't there a rules release now?
It'd be great to get an update on rules.
Rules. Yeah. That's going to be a thing
rules.
Again?
I feel like rules is one of those things that's just there's an alpha that was updated in July. But I would love to have rules back.
It's funny that we thought we couldn't live without it.
I'm interested. I can't wait for that show because I'll be interested to hear what the use cases are.
Yeah. I mean, didn't we just use it like crazy in the past? I think
that was the problem. People were overusing it instead of using core and other.
But I feel like there's some things, especially commerce related, that are so difficult to do.
Commerce doesn't need it anymore, though.
Yeah, it does. Commerce. There's some things in commerce that are so overcomplicated to handle in code, and even things you can't easily. Think about even just notification, not to get too far off topic here, but notifications. I feel like rules is perfect for if this type of product is purchased, notify this role. I don't feel like that kind of stuff shouldn't be in code.
I can't.
It's just because people are just doing stuff with events now. Is that what's happening? Is just code?
Yeah, essentially.
Yeah. Everything's code, and while code is certainly a valid way to do that, I feel like there should be
a GUI way.
A GUI way to do some of those things.
Yeah.
Setting up shipping rules.
Right. Yeah.
Even programmatically sometimes are fairly.
So with that said,
complex.
If you're the maintainer of the rules module and you want to get on our show, you reach out.
Yeah. So, I think. Are there any gaps? I mean,
there's a million things with this.
Maybe experimental modules.
800 gaps.
Yeah, let's move on to the next category, which was the front end design.
I put components and build tools. That's my contribution to the front end.
Build tools. What are you talking about? Are you talking about SAS?
Yeah, I think he's talking
SAS,
about
Node, NPM.
Yeah,
Pattern Labs.
Yeah.
Gulp.
You're just reading those off of a page, right?
No, the things that I use.
Yeah. Good.
What about build tools? What about What about tools like actual like design tools like XD and Figma and things like that? I like this. I say things and Nick rapidly types them down.
jQuery probably should be something that would fall into the front end category, right? jQuery kind of stuff.
I mean, I would just say JavaScript in general, like JavaScript frameworks.
Yeah.
Like I would.
JavaScript query. Oh.
Take it easy.
Take it easy. Like, what the heck is that? Oh, okay. Yeah.
So we don't have anything in here in design. So I don't know.
Again, I think there are a ton of design podcasts out there. I don't think we need to be those guys.
I'm not trying to make us one of those podcasts at all. It doesn't mean we shouldn't have a show on something design related, right? I mean, when
sure.
Accessibility, there you go, is one.
Oh, there's a good one. Yeah, accessibility is hot topic.
Okay, then we have business.
Business.
Why don't you say this is an audio show too? So you should probably say what you're typing.
Oh, getting contracts, networking. I was thinking, would our camp updates fall under this? Because we do some shows on that kind of thing. I think it's this. Maybe business isn't the right category for that kind of thing.
Okay, so there's a gap in this, right? Community news, right, or community type topic, right? So like camps and initiatives and things like that would fall under there, right? Oh, he's lumping them together.
What about up in the Drupal newsy stuff? Is that what you mean, John? Or do you just mean
No, I mean like more expansive talk about.
I feel like saying like next week is the New Jersey Drupal camp, right? That's in the news, but like the show that we had with Rick and is it Ari? To
Avi?
Talk about going Avi. Avi.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Avi. I don't know why I confused him with Ari. Anyway, that discussion would be probably under this, and it was a whole show. And then we had the follow up from NetCamp too, I think, with Rick. So I think those types of shows.
Yeah. So going through some of my Talking Drupal note cards that I have here, I have Avi Ager. Have him on. Where would something like Ager fall into this?
That would be under the
problem solving
core initiatives, problem solving bucket.
So add that there, so I can throw this card away.
We're going to take that card. We're going to throw it in the garbage, and we're going to put this topic into a Google Doc that may or may not ever be seen again.
Okay, then we got backend coding experimental try. I feel like it's funny because I feel like this is definitely something we should talk about. But now that I'm thinking about the mechanic, like
TBD.
What? Yeah, I mean, would this be like tools? Like we've done that.
So I would think of. So I could
tool shows.
I could picture a conversation easily about what are
preprocessed functions,
events and subscribing to events. What is that like? Not like necessarily syntactically how you do it, but the concepts behind it. How
about getters and setters?
What about things like preprocessed functions?
Sure.
Like when to use them. Would you consider Twig
interesting
as this or front end? I mean, technically it's front end, but
Twig is technically front end.
And I'd put that under the front end section, Twig.
But I almost do Kint more in Twig files than I do
APIs, Drupal APIs, API work. setting up your Drupal website to publish APIs, and then a different topic of consuming external APIs, another topic. Those are two completely different things.
Okay, so creating
some of these things could fall into that other category that we had with problem solving, but I like the little focus on maybe some backend stuff.
Okay,
services.
I think that's a good start.
What's a Drupal service? Where do you find them? What do you use them for? How do you figure out what they do?
How do you find them without pulling out your hair?
Yeah. How to even know what they do and why they're there?
I suddenly have the fear of these shows devolving into like colon space.
No way. No.
Bracket. Caret.
No. The thing is,
we should just do a 6-hour show where we just talk about each of these topics in detail, one after the other.
You'll find me sleeping under my desk at that point.
All right, let's move on to we got enough in those categories. Let's move on to the Drupal specific categories.
Man.
Yeah, I feel like this first one belongs somewhere else. The decoupled Drupal, the Gatsby,
leave it there. Yeah.
I mean, we can leave it there, but that's specifically Drupal, so it's not really a non-Drupal.
I guess it could be. I guess that's two things, right? It's Gatsby and decoupled Drupal, right?
Yeah, so but Gatsby falls under JavaScript frameworks. So, anyway, CI/CD. I think that's a good topic for this. I would think
testing.
Well, I put testing in the back end. I can move that.
Oh, no, I see it. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. All right. That's another one I typed without saying. Hosting. That's a good one. What other kinds of things? Would this be things like we've done a couple of shows where we talked about resolving downtime, like when you have downtime, that kind of thing?
What are you looking at? Non-specific web topics?
Yeah. Like how do you handle like an outage? We had that show.
Okay.
It's more
like
business
with those
related,
kinds
right?
of things.
It's more of a business case. Like handling an outage is business case. It's not a
web developers are generally fixing it, and it doesn't have to be a Drupal site, I guess. It could be in both.
I guess so.
Whatever.
Whichever. Right, moving right along.
Okay, then we have
developers. Let's move on to the next category.
Developers life.
We've got so far mental health, remote work.
I mean, this is kind of a subtopic of mental health, like work-life balance.
Yeah.
Toss underneath there burnout.
I mean, those are kind of subtopics. Maybe
getting skills, sharpening your skills. So skills development, professional development, I guess is the best way to put it. Professional development.
Continuing education.
Yeah.
Okay. It's going to be a lot of mechanical keyboard in this episode. Sorry, listeners.
Yes, it's okay.
Okay, so continuing education, professional development, remote work, burnout, work-life balance, mental health in general. Yeah, I think those are good topics.
Again, we're going to note that we're missing a large swath of topics here. Yes. So feel free to reach out via the various communication methods to tell us how many topics we've actually missed.
Yep.
Yeah, one of the things one of the podcasts that I've mentioned a couple of times that I listen to is the Drive to Work podcast, and he's on episode. I'm listening to episode like 660 something right now, and that's something every 50 episodes. I'm using this topic. I might have talked about it before, but at this point, I feel like I've talked about everything, so I'm looking for topics, and
right.
We're half that. We're approaching 300, but 300 episodes, 8 years. We're not going to begrudge any topic that people suggest. So feel free to reach out.
It was we recently went through every episode that we had and posted it in Drupal.org into the issue queue for Talking Drupal, just to give people credit for participating in the show. And wasn't it interesting, guys, to go back and see the topics that we talked about over time?
Yeah.
It was really fascinating. I think I had the first third of our shows. I think I got like 1 to whatever 100. And it's funny how some of those early topics, I was thinking to myself, gee, we could like revisit this thing again. And some of those things were 7 or 8 years ago, and I could like remember talking about the topics too. It was strange.
I think, the first 5 episodes, I think we talked about views or something. It's like we haven't talked about views in so long.
Yeah, I know.
But it was a big part of Talking Drupal in the beginning.
Yeah, it was. All right. I think that's a good start to the outline for the quarter. What I'm going to do next, I'll create a calendar. I'm going to put all this kind of stuff into a more friendly way to deal with it in a spreadsheet and stuff. And we'll start hammering out the shows. Speaking of shows, next week, we have a show about Simply Test Me. SimplyTest.me, right? That's our show.
Yes.
Yep.
And
looking forward to it.
the guest is
Adam
Bernstein, right? Yeah.
Yep.
So that will be next week's show. This last topic, I think we've run out of time for today. So we have a hard stop at 6, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So what we'll do is we'll save this for a discussion outside of the show. Maybe we can address some of this in Slack or maybe in a follow-up phone call later in the week.
Sounds like a plan.
All right. That was interesting.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
And I don't think you have to cut too much. So
No, I'm not gonna cut.
There was like the 30 seconds where we all forgot that it was an audio podcast and just started when I was typing, just reading what I was writing.
Yeah.
But other than that, I think it was pretty good. So yeah, I'm curious to hear what people will think about this.
Great.
And as I've said numerous times, if you have questions or feedback, reach out to us on Twitter at Talking Drupal. You can ping us in the Talking Drupal channel on the Drupal Slack, or you can email us at show@talkingdrupal.com. You can get updates on the show by signing up for our newsletter at talkingdrupal.com/newsletter.
Thank you, patrons, for supporting Talking Drupal. Your support is greatly appreciated. You can learn more about becoming a patron at talkingdrupal.com and choose Become a Patron. And our patrons get a private feed. That's the raw show. You get a little bit of pre-show, a little bit of post-show, uncut. So if you want to hear any of our flubs or misspeak, anytime we misspeak, that's the way to get it.
No flubs here.
And if our listeners want to get in touch with you, John, how can they do that?
You can find me on all the major social networks and Drupal.org at John Picozzi. You can find out about Umfit, umfink.com.
And Stephen, where can our listeners reach you?
StephenCross.com.
And you can reach me at NixVan, NICXVAN, pretty much everywhere. If you've enjoyed listening, we've enjoyed talking.
Thanks, guys.